This is Common Courtesy, a social commentary talk show podcast starring personalities from various backgrounds, starting the conversation on the latest trending pop culture news, sex, relationship advice, and interviews with special guests. With your host, Sean Nicholas. Because they're obviously lying to Fox News, ABC News, CBS, but you're not lying to us. Angelique Young.
I just want to see everybody catch a case because I don't think anybody would flip faster than a Fox News reporter. You tell me.
Ivan Alexander.
You gotta be a special kind of stupid to think he was misleading. Let me tell you, flat out he lied.
Brandy J.
Like before DNA tests, so and so was really your father, but they weren't really your father, and the DNA test came out, and it was like.
And Dr. Christina Palin.
Even if critical race theory, some people think it's about slavery. So what? Slavery should be taught.
All right, so I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this. We are coming back. Tonight's topics, we talk sex advice, and this advice comes from your grandparents. Then, two Florida bills take aim at critical race theory and the other at the LGBTQ plus community in schools. After that, we talk where are we with police reform after the death of Cedric Lofton in police custody. All this with special guest co-host Crystal Vahzz. Sit back and enjoy the conversation. Hello, guys, and welcome back to Common Courtesy. I'm your host and moderator, Sean Nicholas. This is a podcast for young activists out there looking and seeing for, the truth and talking about politics and popular culture. With me, I have all of my co-hosts, except for Dr. Palin. We'll miss her tonight. But with us, we have our very special guest co-host, Orlando-based performer, Crystal Vahzz. Crystal, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me back. It has been too long. So we've been back in this little thing called a pandemic or something.
I know, like the pandemic has kind of been like ruining a little bit of everyone's plans. Because I remember we used to shoot this show like at my house. This is way before I met you, but now we are on, a Zoom basic call. But anyways, it's been a while since I've seen you, and since we've seen you, and you've been doing some projects. I kind of wanted to ask you to get into that, if you can.
I was back in the summer. I answered a casting call for a new show that's coming up. I can't really say anything about it, but it is something totally different, totally new for me. And right now, they released what's called the sizzle. I learned what a sizzle is. It's like a preview of a pilot, but it's something that y'all have never seen before on TV. It has some big names on there, but I'm really excited about it, and hopefully it's something that will take off and people will enjoy watching. And we're just very excited about it. We're already at the final stages of the pilot and everything. We're just waiting on the network to see which network's going to greenlight it. And right now, I think it's between like two networks.
I hope this gets picked up because I want to be like, oh my God, I know her. She's been on our podcast. So
I'll be on it in between like seasons or something, in between filmings. But yeah.
Proud of you. Okay, so let's get into some fun things. I have a conversation starter because I was, looking for sex advice as I always do during Hot Topics. And I found this sex advice from, our grandparents after reading a recent article from, the New York Times about, they were basically saying that you should take some more time during sex as well. But the one I found from the mic.com mostly talked about, it reads, the best key advice to marriage is having separate bathrooms or any relationship. So I kind of want to take this to you guys and see how you guys feel. Do you guys believe and think that having a separate bathroom is the key to a successful marriage and relationship. I want to start with our guest co-host because you're back. What do you think?
When I first heard that, I was like, that's gotta be ridiculous. But I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I do that.
What do you mean?
Well, me and my husband, we're going on our 24th year right now.
Uh-huh.
And we have a two-bathroom house, and he uses one more than the other. But even when we have like the master bathroom together, we deal better more when we have like a dual sink. Like he has his sink and I have my sink. It's like don't touch anything on my sink.
I'm
It's like, oh my God, it's true.
okay. Okay. And then let me go to Angelique. Angelique, what do you think? Do you think this is the key to a successful and happy relationship and marriage, having a separate bathroom?
I'm gonna say yes on account of like I can't function in any situation where I can't have the bathroom to myself. Like I need space. I need my own designated areas. Like I'm the kind of person who like even in college, like in dorms, I had like my little caddy. Like I have to have like my own available items. Like I can't like sharing having to do a sink with somebody. I'm like, no, when I want to brush my teeth, I want to brush my teeth. When I want to wash my hands, I want to wash my hands. I think having his and hers is always like super cool. I don't think you understand how important it is until you actually utilize it. Like when you have it in front of you and you're like, oh, I get like, this is for me. And that's like, this is mine. I'm taking this. Like my stuff is over here for a reason. Like, I'm noticeable.
Just to put it, nothing's worse than having your husband taking a dump when you're trying to brush your teeth right next to him.
Oh my God. There it is. Okay. And then
this is also why I'm single, because I always have one bathroom. I'm like, you can't move in, you can't stay, you can't even leave a sock in the drawer. Like, I can't, like, no, you have your place, I have mine, I'll meet you at the spot. Like, that's how I am. Like, only thing we share is the bed, that's it.
Oh, yes. All right, so I'm going to bounce this question to Ivan. Ivan, what do you think? Having separate bathroom, is that the key to happy relationship and marriage?
I think it's very important, and it's really more important when you realize when you don't have it. Because if you've had it for a long time and you get used to it, it's a zone thing, it's a space thing. So all of a sudden, if you go from a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom or a 2-3 bathroom, whatever it is, down to we're sharing this together, nope. As Angelique would say, it's a no name, no number, no breakfast. Get out. See you at the spot.
Y'all some ruthless people. I don't want to go on a date with you.
I need my space. Get out.
That's in the bathroom.
Okay, so let me bounce this. All right, so let me bounce this question to Brandy. Brandy, what do you think? Do you think having separate bathrooms is the key to a happy relationship and marriage?
I don't know if it's necessarily the key, but I will say that it is important, especially like I live in a small house and it's like the smallest bathroom you've ever seen with a walk-in shower, and the like toilet is like directly next, so I can be peeing or doing something and she's taking a shower and I'm like, hey, hi. Like there's no space, and like the sink is like so small, and it's just I think people have different ways of like cleaning, especially is a huge thing. Like, if you are cleaner than another person, or like you like to shave and or you like to hang your towels or put your clothes on the thing, like whatever, you have different styles of that. No matter how much alike you are, you have different styles of things. So I think that it creates less arguments within that. But I don't mind sharing the space with my girlfriend. But I think we end up being on the same cycle. That's another thing when you have two females. And so it's like you're needing the bathroom more often at the same time. And then you're like, and I don't want to rush somebody. So
I can agree with that in that aspect, because I think that, having your own personal space in any relationship or in, marriage, same thing, is important, because you have to have your me time, like when I'm in the bathroom, I'm like, reading shit, I have to, make sure this shit is looking good and do my hair, and honestly, I don't know. I feel I can't be in the bathroom if someone else is using the bathroom. I can't. For me, it ruins the picture. I'm going to say it.
And don't you dare flush. Don't dare flush when I'm in the shower.
No, because I say this. No, all right. So I say this because I was dating this guy, a couple months ago, and I'm gonna get this out really quick. And we were going back to his place, right? And before we get in the car, he like lets one out, like he rips it, right? I don't think this right. It's just like loud as fucking rude. And I think this kind of coincides with that because I'm thinking like, I don't know, he doesn't think we're gonna go home and fuck after that. I guess
You better check it first.
You cleaned out.
I mean, am I wrong for that? Like, am I a child for feeling that like that? Like, I guess I'm classy, or it was just so fucking loud. I was like, no.
Maybe he felt comfortable with you. Maybe he felt comfortable enough with you to say, you know what? If we can't fart together, we can't do nothing. So
Exactly.
I guess
honestly, if you were dating him, the fart was gonna happen, right? It was bound to happen at some point in time. They can't run around holding it in all the time. That causes all kind of issues. So I mean, that was the test.
I can't.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess.
Well, I can hold it in. I can, not use the back. I mean, listen, I can hold this shit. I don't know. I feel like it would ruin.
That's different. I'm not asking you to have feces on yourself. I'm asking no defecation necessary. I'm just saying it's a fart. It's gas moving through. Would you tell them not to burp too? Like, I don't know.
Sean, have you not heard the old saying that if you hold farts in, that's where you get shitty thoughts from? Come on now.
I'm done.
Well, I guess I'm a kid because I know that's gonna happen. I guess I didn't like him that much then. You know what I mean? That's the truth of it.
That was a deal breaker.
There you go. There you go. He was not the exception to the rule.
All right, so let's move on to some other topics. Like, what I just saw, Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. This is being proposed in the House committee. Let me just play a little clip so we can get on topic.
New at 11, supporters of LGBTQ rights in Florida are strongly pushing back against a bill under consideration by lawmakers that would limit classroom discussions on sexual orientation and gender identity. They are calling it the Don't Say Gay bill and would also allow parents to sue their child's school if those topics are discussed.
It's really unfortunate that we're turning schools into political battlegrounds.
House Bill 1557 tells school districts to not encourage classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identities.
We have to ask ourselves, what kind of an environment are we creating when we're telling people that the existence of LGBTQ people is something to be ashamed of?
The bill's sponsor, Republican Joe Harding, says he hopes the legislation will reinforce the fundamental right of parents to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their children.
So I guess my question to you guys, because we're all gay, is who's right in this? Like, I can see the argument, we're trying to protect the parents' rights in teaching, our children about sexual orientation and things like that. But then again, there's also an educator's job to teach the truth, I feel. So I kind of want to ask you guys, who's right in this? Let me start with Ivan first.
Angela has this one first. I'm still doing some research real quick.
I need a moment, and I really want to hear what Brandy has to say because I feel like Brandy's face, I feel like she tapped in first psychically because she did. The first person I looked at was Brandy. I don't know why. I just literally went to her because I was still trying to find my words, and I looked and she was just frozen on the screen, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely need to hear what she's gonna say.
Okay, Brandy, let's hear from you.
So I guess I would say I would have to look at the wording of the bill actually and see what it actually says, because when it said it would not encourage it, I think sometimes we're vague on things. So I understand that if you're not going to encourage talking about certain things in the classroom, because it would depend on what subject we're teaching, because in math class, who cares talking about someone being gay? That makes no sense. But if you're teaching about history or teaching about, social skills and stuff like that, then that would be different. But I think that's very vague. I think if somebody was being bullied or something was going on, that you would need to address that would be okay. Or if a kid came and said, I don't understand, especially in the lower grades, I don't understand why, if you're talking about boys and girls, but this person, what what do they identify as, like what are they, and they were confused and they wanted to have a nice discussion about it. But I think that it's not, as it's being reported, it's not very clear of what that definition actually means per se. To me, at least, I don't understand exactly.
Okay, and then let me go to Angelique.
Okay, so off the cuff, off the article, off of like the news report and how they're portraying it. And they're saying that they want to keep it as a right for the parent to determine what their kid learns. You have a right to private schooling, you have a right to homeschooling, but a public curriculum is a public curriculum. And a public curriculum should state facts and it should talk about every area. Now, does there need to be a class on gay rights in high school? No, because we have them in college and we have them in other areas. But when we're talking historical and social studies and other areas, sexual health, yes, 100%. If that's the case, you got to remove sex ed completely. Health class has to be removed completely, because you cannot talk about health and you cannot talk about sexual health. You can't even talk about mental health without talking about gender identity, without talking about dysphoria, without talking about, it's the same as body dysphoria.
Yes.
It's all of it is wrapped up in one in the same area, and you cannot have one without the other. So you have to, like, in the same way that it's kind of vague, like Brandy said, you guys have to be very specific on how you approach this, because approaching this means that you have to be understanding of what your options truly are. That's like saying, like, you know, you don't want to understand, like, we're going to get into it, but that's like talking about civil rights movement. It's a very small chapter in every history book I've ever seen. It is literally maybe one chapter long. It's usually a half a chapter. It's not even a full chapter. They kind of get in and get out on all of it.
Right.
You learn about the same 6 or 7 politically historic characters, and you never hear about the people in the background. Or when you do hear about them, you hear their names and you never see their faces, and you don't even realize that the people you're talking about are people of color, right? So if they do that the same way with people who are in the gay community, LGBTQIA, or, you know, anything to that effect, you should understand that that is going to come up. It's a part of the world, and the world has made major movements. As we go further in time, this will be another history movement, as the first time gay marriage was introduced, Matthew Shepard, you know, all of these, Stonewall, all of these really huge things, they are mentioned everywhere. They're huge movements because they changed the world. We cannot pretend like they don't exist, and we can't say this huge movement happened because, you know, people came together and said that they deserved extra rights, and never say what those rights were, who threw the brick, like all that. Like, how can you just erase history or water it down? Like,
Right.
You can't. It's impossible. Not to get the whole point across, you know? Somebody's going to have to give a report, and little time is going to come to school, and what you're going to say? He gave a better report than the teacher? Like, come on, what do you
Right. Okay, so let me hit at Ivan. Ivan, what do you, oh, well, excuse me, let me go to Crystal first before Ivan.
I totally agree with Angelique. It's like, you know, if you go to a private school, then it's fine. You can have your private curriculum there. But if you go to a public school, it's public domain. I believe it's going to push kids back into the closet, making it harder for, you know, kids in Florida that are LGBTQ to survive in. I mean, 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide last year, and probably because they felt alone. And it's like you said earlier, you know, all 5 of us are gay.
Right.
So I'm going to ask, like, how many of the 5 of us had our parents teach us about the gay community?
No.
I know mine didn't, but, you know, I was a child of the 70s and 80s. I don't know. I can't put myself in the shoes of the youth of today, whether it's harder or easier, but I'm sure the same problems that I had back then are still around today, if not more. And we need to educate these youth and let them know they're not alone. And it does get better, as that campaign said.
Okay, and then let's go to Ivan. Ivan.
Well, as it was stated before, oh God, I just lost the train of thought there. Well, here's the thing, though. Okay, so you can't say gay. Okay, you don't say gay, so you can't say anything about LGBTQIA, the whole 9 yards in it.
Right.
And you can't talk about the straight folks either. And because you can't have one without the other. We are sexual beings. Everything about life has some kind of form of sexuality to it. Not to mention the fact you better shut down every bathroom because there's boys and girls. So use the gas stations or do it someplace else because you can't have that in school either.
Right.
Also, in a private school, are they actually able to whitewash that learning situation to the point where slavery never existed, gays don't exist, lesbians don't exist? I mean, if you're going to a private school for better education, you should still be well-rounded. So how would you like disregard that? You cannot erase history. It was like that slogan with the whole thing with Trump and everything else. You will not erase us, or no, I'm sorry, you will not replace us. My return was, you will not erase us. That's simple. So we're here. We're not going any place. We do exist. We are going to continue to exist. And these narrow-minded people are going to have to wake up and say, you know what? Little Johnny's going to learn a lot.
Okay, and just to wrap this up, there is a protest happening with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and his husband Chasten, I believe, coming up sometime, I think this weekend or next week. But I honestly, this bill isn't really vague to me. I think Ivan will be right back. This bill isn't that vague to me because it says it forbids educators from encouraging discussions about sexual orientation and gender identity. I think that they really feel that these topics are like porn. You know what I mean? Like all the time I see gay and lesbians, and just like Black people, are always treated as a sexual object, more like Asian people too. Like I don't think it has anything to do with like porn or actually seeing that. I think that I agree with Crystal. It's going to push us back into the closet because just like what I believe his name was Michael Wolff in that clip, who's the spokesperson of Florida Equality. It makes you feel like what you're doing and who you are is inappropriate. And that's something that we all felt growing up. And it didn't end well with us. It didn't bode well. A lot of people committed suicide. Like Crystal says, a lot of people had some mental breakdowns, So I just think that Florida is becoming more and more this state. I think it's like dog whistle politics. It's just like this last next topic we're getting into is dog whistle politics. It's telling people that if you feel that you don't want to talk about gay rights or something that makes you feel uncomfortable, come to Florida. And the governor, Ron DeSantis, is kind of eating this shit up because he's planning to run for office. So we're going to take a quick little break before we get into this next topic. And by that time, hopefully Ivan will be back with us. We'll be right back. Go ahead and relax and pour yourself a glass of wine. Common Courtesy will be right back with more conversation on the latest trending news, hot topics, sex, love, relationships, and more. Stay tuned. All right, so the next topic I want to jump into is basically what people are dubbing the white guilt bill from Florida is the SB 148. I just kind of want to play a news clip before we get right into this.
Back. Governor Ron DeSantis' push to prevent critical race theory from being taught in schools is moving forward in Tallahassee. The legislation already causing some controversy, with Democrats arguing the bill isn't needed and it would lead to censorship in schools.
Even though the state's Department of Education already banned critical race theory last year, this year lawmakers want to take that a step further.
And yeah, it was banned by rule by the state board. This in essence would codify that rule, in that critical race theory violates the tenets of this bill and how things should be taught.
The Individual Freedom Bill states that an individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. An individual should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race.
This is really rich. So I have a lot to say about this. Let me start with Angelique first.
Okay, so
wait, hold on. Before I go to you, Angelique, I just kind of want to clarify what this bill kind of says. Basically, what the clip said, it prohibits public schools and private business from making white people feel discomfort when they teach students or train employees about discrimination in the nation's past, basically. So let me go to Angelique. Sorry.
Okay, but the clip that they just showed and the verbiage used in this clip simply show that they're saying that that it's by any person for any gender, for any race, and it's not just catering to white guilt, supposedly. It's catering to everybody's. So that means that technically, under this bill, I'm protected and that I shouldn't be made to feel anguish or harm or anything about my people and what they did, right? So you can't make you would get fired for a slavery joke in an instant. You would get fired for a any discriminatory thing. I would come to you and be like, "You made me feel uncomfortable. You made me feel bad about myself because I was born to Black parents. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask to come here. I didn't ask to be here. This is just me. I'm just trying to make a living." So now you want to have that argument. You want to open that can of worms. You really want to go there. I would need to see this bill in front of me and I need to read all the words because I would love to have fun and play on somebody's yard and be like, go ahead and call me the N-word. We're going into your bill now. Please drop the N-word and please add an ER. Don't do an AH. Do me a favor. Throw an ER on that so that we could go right to court. I'll go for the highest one I can. Let's go for I would literally go roll in somebody's grass just to get called the N-word so that I could take somebody to court and be paid for the rest of my days. Because they would be real mad. They'd be like, damn, this is your bill. Didn't you write this bill? Like, didn't you take the time to choose these words carefully to protect the men and the women? And
Right.
This is gay. I could bounce, man. I'm 3 times a winner on that one. Not only am I gay, Black, and trans, bitch, we gonna have a good old time. You can't say nothing to me. I should walk around with just a white veil. I'm the next Cleopatra in this bitch. Come on with it. Come on with it. Let's have what you want? Like, I don't even know what to say to these people no more. They just get
let me go to Crystal. Crystal, how do you feel about this? Do you think, because my question is,
I'm still trying to recover from this whiplash that Angelique just gave me with her answer. Damn, girl. Woo! No, I just think it's funny how, they claim that the liberals are the easily triggered and snowflakes, yet it sounds like the Republicans are actually the ones with the most ridiculously sensitive people on the earth.
Right.
It's like, do we really need a bill like this
to help you feel better?
Exactly. I mean, it's like, it's ridiculous these days. It's like, I don't know. Let's just say in the past month, my account has just suspended on Facebook like 3 times.
Oh. Why?
I have a loud mouth. When it comes to politics, I have a loud mouth and I cannot stand stupidity. And there are a lot of stupid people on social media.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just. I feel bad because it's like I don't want to censor myself, but at the same time, if I don't censor myself, they'll censor me. So I have to be careful with my wordage. But it's just like how Angelique said. I don't think they were thinking that they were going to protect all of us. They were probably thinking they're just going to protect themselves.
Right.
But I'll be right behind her with my check when they call me a fat, the F word. I don't know if I can say it on here.
I'm going to be telling everybody, you made me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
I don't feel safe.
Let me go to Brandy.
Whose house can I go to? Oh,
right.
Okay, I'm down. Those $1 million houses.
Baby. The abortion
like,
law,
the
rules
on comment.
Baby.
You said pizza oven. What you say about an oven?
So Brandy, let's get into this really fast before we run out of time. How do you feel? Like, do you think that this is, protecting from white discomfort, or is it for everybody? Give me your take.
This is just so ridiculous. Like, it's almost as ridiculous taking time to make strawberry shortcake our national or state dish. It's like, do we really have to have bills like this? Is this what we spend our time on? Like, you're uncomfortable. How many people have been uncomfortable for hundreds of years and are still freaking uncomfortable now? Like, I'm so tired of it. And like, I was trying to give the definition of privilege and this, that, and the other thing. People don't even know what that means. They have no idea what half the words in the freaking dictionary mean. They're so uneducated. Can we at least get our school systems where they need to be instead of all the whitewashing of history? Like, kids don't even know anything. Like, they don't know anything nowadays. It's so sad. You try to say something to them and they're like, wait, what? Who? What? How does the bill get passed? Why didn't the president do this? I'm like, sweetheart, do you know the different areas of government? What? And I'm like, you guys are stupid. Like, oh my gosh, just stop. And now we have more bills. It's like, I just think we need to tell history the way it is. So we try not to repeat it. And when you start to whitewash anything, you know, it's horrible. Like, you try to, I don't know. I get so irritated because it's almost as if, like, when we have the Native American, Rights Act and different things that go on, and like, people don't know, like, when I say there was more than one mass genocide, they're like, wait, are you talking about the Holocaust? I'm like, oh my god.
Right.
Like, you celebrate it, you eat turkey on that holiday, like, you know, like, what? Like, I don't even understand. Sometimes people are just, it exhausts me mentally and emotionally sometimes. Like, I can't even touch on it.
And then Ivan, let me go to you before we lose you again.
I made it back to this one. Have y'all read this crap?
I've read it.
SB 148 individual freedom. Are you freaking kidding me? Have you read this? Ooh. Whew, get me started. Okay, so discrimination based on race, color, sex, national origin, revising the requirements of required instruction, the individual freedom. People, don't be so butthurt and so upset about somebody offending you. Get over it. If crap happened that offends you, well, just deal with it. We went through history. We're going through current stuff. Everything that happens now is going to offend someone. Mm-hmm. So get over yourself. If you feel that guilt, maybe you should have a thicker skin. Maybe you should understand what's going on and do something to change what has you feeling so guilty. I'm just saying. Not that you have anything to do with it. I mean, you can't be held accountable per se to what your ancestors did, unless, of course, they did own 500,000 slaves. Then we got a problem with that, okay? Because they were directly there and you came from them. But in general, whoever's watching this and listening, read the damn bill. This is stupid. This is a waste of time, energy, and money.
And like I said, I think when I said earlier, dog whistle politics is basically what it's basically like saying the quiet part out loud, like making legislation. And this bill actually backs what critical race theory is about, creating policies and legislation in order to promote and keep white supremacy. I think, these people in Florida are just really fucking stupid. I agree with you guys, because I'm like, you're just literally telling people why maybe they should study critical race theory in high school at least, because you have to look at America through the lens of racism. Because even when they didn't do that, when I was doing when I was studying American history, I thought a lot of this shit was based on race. Like, Black people were treated like this, Indian people were treated like this because they were Indian and they weren't white. So I mean, I don't understand why we have to do. Well, yes, I do. It's dog whistle politics. Basically, Ron DeSantis is saying that if you feel like this, come to this state. Because a Florida lawmaker said, are you an enabler or are you trying to change what happened? And I think a lot of these people are enablers. I just say come out and say it. It's dog whistle politics. If you come to Florida, if you're racist or if you're, against LGBTQ+, that's just my opinion. And let me just get into this last topic to ask you guys, where are we on police reform after we just saw the death of Cedric Lofton? I have a little video. I just kind of want to show you guys what happened in the cell when he was taken after his foster father called about a mental health crisis with him.
A.m. the JIAC intake specialist opens Lofton's cell door to explain the intake process. Let's point out this moment right here when a JIAC employee reaches for Lofton's jacket on a nearby chair. Lofton reacts and approaches the employee. Just before 4:30 in the morning, Lofton is seen in the lobby with the JIAC intake specialist and a corrections officer. The employees are trying to keep Lofton from walking to the intake counter. He again tries to approach the counter. The employees began to restrain Lofton. That's when video shows Lofton punch the intake specialist in the face, knocking his glasses to the floor. The employees then wrestle him down to the ground in a holding cell, and more employees run to help. For more than 30 minutes, it appears employees flip Lofton onto his back. At 5:08 a.m., according to the district attorney's report, Lofton was handcuffed, and 4 minutes later, he was flipped to his back after employees felt for a pulse and could not find one.
Wow. Another story like this again. It's not like a police shooting, but it's basically almost the same story I'm hearing. I kind of want to go to you guys to ask you, where are we on police reform and who should we kind of blame? Why is this still happening? Let me start with Ivan first.
Well, apparently the reform isn't being done, because otherwise this crap wouldn't be still going on. It would still not happen. That was blatantly, they killed him. I mean, come on, give me a break. 30 minutes, and now they're going to check for a pulse after the fact. They need better training, and they need to actually put into place the effect that will prevent this kind of situation from happening. It's just ridiculous. It's unconscionable in 2022 that kind of crap is happening. I mean, even in 2021, it doesn't. In 2000 and beyond, it should never be happening. But for it to be happening now, and then talk about reform, where's the reform? What's reforming? I don't see it.
Right. And I want to ask you a further question, just to follow up. Do you think that the Biden administration is doing enough? Because they kind of ran on, police reform.
Well, that's a kind of touchy subject to a degree, because again, the president is the figure.
I know.
Your head. Okay. Don't think for 1 minute that man has any power. It's the other sectors, the other arms of the government that have the power. So yes, he did run on this platform. A lot of people are kind of voted for him for that, but don't hold him so accountable to the fact that you think he can just make a law with one stroke of a pen. It doesn't work that way. So the people that are really saying he's not doing enough, they need to understand how the system really works before they start really complaining to say he's not doing what he said he was going to do. He can only do so much and still push to do what he wanted to do. But I think they're asking for too much too soon, in my opinion.
Okay, and let me go to Brandy. Brandy, what do you think? Where are we with police reform? Even after that.
I think that even watching that makes me severely emotional. I think it's hard to watch anything happen to another individual, especially an individual so young. And to think that mental health like that, I remember when I was a kid and having to go to Children's Hospital because I had a lot of depression and suicide attempts when I was under 18. And I remember watching them put people on, 4-point restraints and needles in the butt and all this stuff. And I remember I was scared shitless. And I wasn't even having it done to me. So I can't even imagine what was going through that poor kid's head. And to have people that are not trained handling this, I think it's crazy. I think that the training needs to be there. I think that the social injustice is astronomical right now. I think a lot of people are overworked right now, obviously, but that's no excuse. I think that we need to do more training, and it's not about pinpointing any one group of people. It's we as a nation don't see mental health the way we should. We don't have the training. We don't have the empathy. We don't have anything. So to expect people that are trained to use weapons and trained to use brute force is hard, because most of us should be learning that first. And then the mental health people that he's obviously at a hospital or wherever he's at, they should have people doing that. He shouldn't just be with people that are armed. He should be with a bunch of other people that know how to do that. If he's waiting that long in intake, there's something wrong with that whole procedure. He should be having someone helping him calm down, maybe taking medication to calm him, something other than just putting someone that we don't know what kind of mental issues he was having, but to put anybody, even myself, in a room with officers and everything, and you're like, your anxiety's gone and this, I can't imagine how he felt. So I think that it's not going anywhere. I mean, we need to do these sensitivity trainings. We need to do mental health training. We need to do a lot more, and it's not just about the police, it's about everybody in general.
Right. And then let me ask Crystal, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with Brandy on that one. Is that, you know, we definitely do need some kind of reform because they keep saying reform, reform, but the same thing still keeps happening. I can't blame the federal level though. I blame the local and the state because they're the ones that are in charge of these, um, all these departments that are doing all this stuff, and they're the ones that should be in charge of also getting the reform out there, teaching these people how to do it the correct way without killing anybody. Um, I mean, I know Biden put in millions of dollars towards police reform, but in putting like enough money to put 1,000 more police out there on the streets to help. But there's only so much he can do on his level. So it does have to start at the state and local level in order to make sure that your law enforcement people are educated enough and know how to handle certain situations without it going this far.
Right. And then let me ask Angelique. Angelique, where do you think we are with police reform and what's happening?
To answer your question first before I go in, because I'm about to go in. There's no real reform happening. There's no real education happening. There's no real training happening for these types of situations. And this is what people wanted for police reform. They wanted situations like this to be handled by professionals that are educated and trained to handle this situation. As somebody who worked in a mental health facility, when we get patients who are having mental crisis, they're in a state that they cannot differentiate their best possible actions and what's going on, and they can't read the room properly. They lash out, they get scared. They're no different than a situation where somebody just is unaware of what's happening. It's like waking up and being in a hospital. You don't know what's going on. Like you're in the room, and you can tell with this young man, all he had his item of comfort. If the jacket wasn't bothering him, I know why we take it away in a mental health facility. You're not allowed to have anything with strings. You're not allowed to have any extra items of clothing on you that you can cause harm to yourself. So rule number one, when you do that, you're supposed to do that when they come in the door. You tell them, put their stuff in the bin. There's a little lobby that you see in the opening of that place where they brought him in. And when they put him in that room, before he ever went in that room, his stuff should have been put away. First and foremost, that's how you avoid the agitation and anger issue. Secondly, there's de-escalation. That's a part of the protocol for every time you're in a situation with somebody who's in a heightened state. So it doesn't matter if they're under the influence or if they're going through a mental disability issue or if they're having anger issues or whatever, de-escalation is always the first rule of thumb. You stand away from them. When that person gets hyper, when that person started to get aggressive, you're supposed to call everybody in the room first. That was their first mistake. All four people should have been in the room from the beginning to be there for each other to do a proper takedown. Now, the problem I have with this is that the camera is only focused on one area and you don't see the takedown. You don't know what they did to that boy behind that little wall.
Right.
You don't get to see it. You don't know what took place in that little room before those two other officers came in. By the time he was on the floor, and yes, they may have gotten the handcuffs on him, you don't know if he went into cardiac arrest. You don't know if he was having a panic attack. You don't know if he was having an anxiety attack. You have no idea what happened in that little bit of time. That 30 minutes is a long ass time. That's a lot of time. We watch somebody die live in less than 7 minutes.
Yep.
And you want to tell me in 30 minutes, you couldn't de-escalate the situation with 4 bodies? We're taught when we work for a mental health facility how to take someone down and put them on the ground properly without harming them, without bruising them, without breaking them, without causing injury to themselves or ourselves. And it does not matter what that person does when they're in your custody. They could spit in your face. They could punch you. They could kick you. They could bite you. They could do whatever the fuck they want because that is the job you signed up for. You are protected through your employer. They are not protected. They may not even have health insurance. So you cannot put your hands on them in any way, shape, or harm that may cause them any kind of injury or lead to death. You are now in a situation beyond your control. And the 4 of you are now involved. Now you done fucked up other people's lives because of your negligence. So now to go on even further, there should always have been a nurse on site. There should be a registered practitioner on site regardless. So if you don't have one at your facility and you're dealing with somebody with a mental health issue, they should have been taken to a mental health facility specifically, not your holding cell, not your jail, whatever. They should have been to a mental health facility, and there should have been a nurse and a licensed mental health clinician on site. The second you got that call and the father said whatever about the mental state, anytime the word mental or is acting differently is involved, you are supposed to take the precaution as law enforcement to take that person to the nearest place. If it's the hospital, if it's wherever, you do not take them to a holding cell. Why did you have this boy if he had some kind of issue? If anybody said anything, and that's what it was said, the father made a call based on an action. So no, you don't get out of that one either. So keeping it further on that, these are the things that are set in place for every facility I've ever worked for and worked with, both hospital, for-profit, and non-for-profit. So if you're not following these rules, you're technically putting yourself in danger. And if it's not a part of your protocol, it needs to be added. And that needs to be a part of your reform. This is what we're fighting for. This is also the reason why we're fighting for critical race theory, for people to understand the injustice that happens in situations like this. You took somebody, if that was the little white boy, y'all would have took his ass to McDonald's and fed him a meal and sat him on the curb and asked him what was wrong and why was he hurt. But this little boy, you brought him to a jail cell, you put him in a cell, and then you started to take his things away angrily. You didn't explain to him why you took his jacket. You didn't explain to him that he can't have his things on him. You didn't sit him down and have that conversation, because had you had it, that wouldn't have happened after he was in the cell. So don't tell me you did it, because you didn't. And it's proven on tape. And the way you treated him and y'all sat in that room, y'all did not want to deal with him. You already considered him hostile, and you didn't give him an opportunity to even do what he needed to do. The boy just wanted his comfort. You took him out of his home. You put him in a place unknown by himself with no one else in the room. And you expected what? What happens to any animal when it's backed against the wall? What happens to any person when they're put in a corner? You're asking very much of someone who is in a state that cannot defend themselves, clearly. Because if they would have defended themselves properly, this would not have happened. But if you had done your job properly, this would have never happened.
And that's like the whole entire argument when they were saying defund the police. And I kept saying they need to find a better way to say that, because with proper training and money involved in the right areas, this would not have happened. Because when they came to his house, immediately he was scared, because I don't really think that, to me, when you're having a mental episode, I don't think the police should just be there. And that's where the problem started with them as well. So they're not charging the prosecutor in this city, in the state, is not charging any files because, he's not filing any charges because he said it was a stand your ground, case. But just what Angelique said, from what she just said, there should be charges filed. They're investigating this independently. They're trying to get someone to investigate this independently. And I hope they do, because just from what she's saying, they did something wrong. Because I watched the entire altercation, and it from his house into where they started with here, I'm like, this is just automatically wrong. Because the police don't say to me, to a Black person at least, because we got to talk about that, safety. This person's here to help you. I don't believe that. When the police come to me and they're like, oh, we need to help you with, hell no. Like, they are trained to kill. Just like Brandy said. I was watching The View, and Sunny Hostin, she's like, from what my understanding is, police are trained. When they pull their gun, they're not just trained to shoot to wound. No, yet they're wounding these mass shooters who are white, but they're killing these Black people, sitting on it for 30 minutes. Are you kidding me? It's a choice. It's a fucking choice. And the choice comes with just what we're saying, critical race theory. Why are we treating these people differently? Like, automatically it's a fucking threat. This makes me so angry that I think the Biden administration should be doing a little bit more something. I know that it's not how government works, right? I know that we have to get the Congress to act, because they're working on that as well. But Republicans are pushing this, and yet they're saying that they're the party for their big open tent. Yet these people are dying and they're not doing anything. Like, it begs the question as to why are we really voting for you? Even the Biden administration, I know they can't, do much, but they can make an executive order and talk about this shit every fucking day, because these Black people that put you in office, that help put you in office, well, they need you. Not just me and Angelique to come on here and have a passionate speech. We can move the crowd, but unless there's legislation and reform, it ain't gonna happen. It's not. So I feel good because I had to get that out.
I wanna say something really quickly though, because I feel like we get on here and we kind of bash these things, right? There are wonderful law enforcement out there. There are some men that I have met in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh where I spent a lot of time who do the right thing, who follow the book and the protocol, and they don't look at you by race, gender, or sex, and they're just there to help you. I have met cops all over. My dad is a retired New York City police detective. He literally was a first responder at 9/11. My love for police enforcement is well known and it's well exercised. I have nothing against that, and I like when good cops do the right thing. But when you watch videos like this and you see that there are people out there who are literally that could have been the result of anything. To me, that looks like somebody having a bad day and taking that out on their patient. You know what I mean? Like that's like, oh, I'm in a bad mood, so I'm just gonna be in a bad mood with you. It's 3 a.m. I don't want to deal with your shit. So I'm just going to be agitative and I'm just going to do things that are going to make you upset because I'm in control. It's a power and control thing. I feel like that needs to be a part of it. I think if you want to do police reform in another way, every fucking officer has to go through a psychological evaluation, both at the beginning and the middle and the end. Like you gotta constantly be in touch and do your just dues. You can't go back to work until you've done an evaluation here or there because it's required for so many other professions. And I feel like it needs to be required for them just because of that. But I do think that I do want to notice and say that I don't hate all cops. I don't think anything bad like that. I think that there are wonderful people out there and I support so many of them, but I think we have to, this whole system, you know, all those things that are done, like the cops who save the kids and who bring them home and who you know, help the little Black kids in the hood. Like I know that they exist, but that it's not enough. There needs to be a streamlined system like there is in the military or any other force that everybody has to follow that rule wherever you are. It doesn't matter. Like the point is to keep people alive, not to kill people.
Right. And the problem, like we were saying, the problem is with their training, because I agree there are good cops out there. And it almost sounds like these are few bad apples, but it's not a few bad apples because then because like it's just from the same tree, you know. But I'm thinking like this: these incidents are happening in different cities with, you know, the same law enforcement, so it has to be from. It's ingrained in the system. So I think critical race theory should be something that we need to look at, because why is it happening? It's in Memphis, Florida,
it's
New
everywhere.
York, you know. So these officers are obviously being trained something with the same thing, you know. So that's what we're talking about. So are we all good on this? Because
I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
In Orlando, aren't they getting a lot of notoriety for introducing social workers and psychologists going with them to calls and I think they reduced it by like 40% like a bunch of issues. I don't know. I haven't read it in a while, but I thought Orlando was doing something like that and it worked really well for them.
I heard they were like trying to instill that, you know.
Yeah, they were talking about it. I don't know if they instilled it yet or not.
I thought they said they did, and like something about like a lot of the incidents went down a lot, but I think it was just Orlando. I haven't heard it anywhere else.
But see, that's why it needs to be a federal thing, because it can't just be Orlando, it can't just be Miami, because it's not just happening in those cities. It's happening all across America. So I mean, I know we want to say we can.
It's the little places we got to worry about,
right? So
but also they need to actually change the terminology from defund the police to refund the police. Change where you're spending the
reallocate funds. Yeah, we got to change the way the money is like.
Change where you're spending it. Change where you get professionals. Change where you get the training. Refund the police, not defund the police.
Yeah,
right.
A lot of TV shows tackled that too. Like I know all the cop shows really went into that. A lot of like the fire shows and hospital shows, they all went into how that affects, you know, the area that they're in, or based on the state, based on the actual numbers of things that were happening. So I think that the world is much more aware now than they were before, but I think that there's still so much more to do. And I just hope that, you know, a lot of other states don't fall suit to this kind of silliness where we're falling back into the times where it's going to be soon, you know, don't sit at my counter if you don't look like X, Y, and Z. You know, I hope that we don't get there, but it's sounding like it might be moving that way. I don't know. Everybody might be hopping the border. We might all be leaving the U.S. if they keep this shit up.
I'm dead. All right, guys. So I love this discussion, because I think this is the ongoing conversation we need to be having with, you know, ourselves, friends, you know, because we can't sit here and we can't just vote, you know, people out of office and the fight's over. We have a struggle. So Thank you for joining us. And also thank you, Crystal Vahzz, for joining us as well on Hot Topics. Thank you
Such
so
a
much.
pleasure.
I know, right? So thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week with some more hot topics. Have a good night. Follow our podcast page, Comic Jersey TV, here on Facebook and YouTube for more conversations on love, sex, relationships, and commentary on the latest trending news. And listen to us on multiple podcast platforms via comicjerseytv.buzzsprout.com.